I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Louisiana is bracing for more rain this weekend after one of the wettest springs on record. Flooding has been widespread, including in hurricane-ravaged areas like Lake Charles, where nearly a foot of rain fell on a single day and swamped the city once again. Joining us now is WAFB Chief Meteorologist and LSU Ag Center climatologist Jay Grimes. We've been on the set together before, but you know, we haven't seen rain like this much before. What have we really seen this year across the state?
Well, you hit it on the head right in the beginning. Some places in the state for the first half of 2021 are looking at record rainfall totals for that 6 months window. It's pretty impressive when you start talking about anywhere close to 40, maybe even 50, upwards of 60 inches of rain, especially across the southern parishes, and particularly in southeast Louisiana. And everywhere you see these shades of blue here, we're talking about rain totals for the first half of the year that are nearly double the norm. In fact, at 60 inches of rain in and around the Baton Rouge metro area, that's what they average for a whole year. And here we've got more than 6 months to go. So we're on tap to not only have a record first half of the year, but some sites may actually end up the year with the wettest year ever.
Wow. And the bad thing is, you mentioned we do have some more rain on the way, but we'll touch on that directly in a moment. But pull out your crystal ball. What can we expect for the rest of this summer? All
right, well, here's the deal. Right now, it looks like the summer will be fairly typical statewide, and maybe a little on the wetter side for the southern part of the state, but generally rainfall should be relatively well behaved. I do say should be. That's assuming that the tropics behave. Of course, we've got something coming in over the weekend that's going to be problematic, especially for the southern parishes. And all it takes is one or two storms over the course of the season, and that changes the rainfall ball game completely for the state. So if the tropics behave, it shouldn't be a bad summer. Let's see how they do.
Yeah, well, the tropics are already behaving badly because we have some tropical moisture moving in right now as this goes to air. What does that mean with all that we've already had? I mean, we've got places where the drainage ditches and the usual creeks are all already full.
Right.
So we have a tough hurricane season. What is that going to mean for us statewide when it comes to getting this water off?
Well, this weekend is still a little bit of a question mark. We know that we're probably going to be dealing with a tropical depression. It might become Claudette, but the real question is not going to be the wind with this storm. It's going to be all about the rain and the path of the storm. Well, right now, we think that most of the heaviest rains are going to be down the southeastern quarter of the state, basically from the Atchafalaya Basin eastward. There, they could see 4, 6, maybe even 8 inches of rain. Now, on the west side of the Atchafalaya and up into northern Louisiana, we're thinking maybe on the order of 1 to 3 inches. That'll be manageable. But as you point out, we're saturated and there's no storage space for any extra rain. Southeast Louisiana may really take one on the nose this weekend.
Well, the upside is that it's a lot of sugarcane there, so that can really come back.
It'll survive it. If we can have that drier weather in the northern part of the state, that would be helpful for those folks, no question about it.
Well, we love having you on our set. Thank you very much, Jay Grimes, climatologist with the LSU Ag Center and WAFB Chief Meteorologist. There's an old saying that wheat does not like wet feet. Well, wheat across Louisiana has been nothing but wet due to those rains Jay and I were just talking about. Louisiana wheat farmers are almost done with their harvest. As Craig Gautreaux shows us, despite some adverse weather, yields have been better than expected.
Louisiana wheat farmers are finally getting the opportunity to harvest their grain after a soggy start to May. The crop had to battle record cold in February and an extremely wet spring. While the yields are not exceptional, they have met or exceeded expectations.
The plants and the crop made it through the freeze that probably our test weights and yields will be down. And that's really not the case. I mean, they're certainly not going to set any state records.
By the end of May, the harvest is usually nearly complete. But like much of the spring planting, the harvest was delayed by torrential rain in April and May.
Since April 1, we've had almost 20 inches of rain. And that certainly has kind of thrown a wrench in the harvest.
Paget has heard yields in the mid-50 bushel range in the southern part of the state and higher yields in the northern part. All of the spring rain had Paget concerned about the yield numbers.
Wheat does not like wet feet. And if you have a crop on a well-drained field then you're likely to do a little bit better than something where you're going to have these saturated soils for an extended period of time.
While wheat acres increased this year, they are nowhere near the levels they were a decade ago. Paget says there are two main reasons for this.
One, prices, commodity prices have not looked very good. This year they do. And scab. Scab has been really a thorn in our side for the last probably 5 or 6 years.
Paget says the scab disease pressure this year was light, but he is not sure of the reason. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Boyd Paget estimates that Louisiana has about 47,000 acres of wheat this year. This number is nearly twice as much as last year, but much lower than the 300,000 acres we had here several years ago. Many folks know South Louisiana for its swamps, but did you know it also has a prairie? Known as the Cajun Prairie, buffalo used to roam this area feeding on native grasses. This week, TWILA's Neil Melanson brings us the story of one farmer who's restocking the Cajun Prairie with native seeds while helping to grow his cattle operation.
It's feeding time at Coastal Prairie Farm in Acadia Parish near Eunice. Like most cattlemen, Justin Fuselier is putting his cattle to pasture on ryegrass. However, these cattle are also rotated onto lands that look like this. This is what's known as the Cajun Prairie, grasslands with a diverse array of plant species. The best thing is, these plants are used to hooves trampling them. In fact, they live for it.
If you look out into the landscape, a lot of people would see what you may call weeds, and part of this system, we're driving towards soil health. We need biology to cycle the nutrients, but in order to have that biology, we need the diversity.
These 30 acres were reseeded with native plants grown on just 1 acre of land. The reseeding project began with Justin's father, Vernon, who got the seeds from a professor growing them at home.
This is one of the few prairies that's been planted strictly by seed. Most of the other prairies were planted by people taking, transplanting plants into it, transplanting prairie.
The native plants have a huge effect on the soil here. You can see the soil sample has several layers to it, indicating good moisture and biotic content.
A lot of positive benefits. Nutrient holding capacity, water infiltration rate, water holding capacity, all those things go up. So in a regular pasture situation where you're adequately rotating, you're letting it rebound, you're not grazing it down too hard, but you may have, limited plant species in there. You can plant some legumes, some other grass species to mix that diversity up. This is that system on steroids.
The restoration of the Cajun Prairie is not just about plants. Pollinators and other species greatly benefit from this area, according to NRCS state conservationist Chris Ebel.
There's a whole lot of biology going on underground in the soil of this system. And all these plants evolve together with the same forces, fire, large grazing animals, and just the overall climatic conditions that we find here in southern Louisiana, which is a lot wetter than most prairies that you see.
So the seed is actually only produced right here.
The reseeding does take a long time. This 30-acre patch took about 4 or 5 years, but there is a payoff. Justin Fuselier doesn't pay for hay.
We learned again, when you build these systems, they're resilient, they're abundant, everything comes full circle, the nutrients are cycled by nature, the healthy soil, we don't have to deliver it out of a bag, we don't have to plant or introduce different forage species, to fill major gaps, and it's been pretty successful. We've completed our second winter in a row without feeding any hay, just using stockpiled forage and on our core cow group.
Now, as you heard, it takes a while to get a field looking like this with all of this biodiversity and these beautiful flowers you see here. But the reward is worth the wait, according to the Fuseliers, from nutrition for cattle to soil health for crops like rice, as well as habitat for pollinators like bees. This is Louisiana native plants and grasses working for Louisiana agriculture. Reporting from Eunice, I'm Neil Melanson.
Fuselier Farms offers both lamb and beef, both fed on native grasses and grain-fed. For more information on the operation or how you can help grow the Cajun Prairie, head to our website at twilatv.org. As you just saw, Louisiana's farmers and ranchers are stewards of the land. They also love to get out on the water, especially if it's for a great cause. TWILA's Jennifer Finley takes us to Grand Isle for the Terrebonne and Lafourche Parishes Fishing Rodeo, which raised money for agricultural education.
What you doing out here?
Fishing, like everybody. Just trying to catch some catfish and something to eat, so we can eat tonight.
Today we're at Bridgeside Marina here in Grand Isle. We're having our annual Terrebonne Lafourche Farm Bureau Fishing Rodeo. We had about 20 boats out on the water today with approximately 80 anglers, all out having a great day on the water for a good cause. We do this cause every year to raise money for Ag in the Classroom, and the Farm Bureau Foundation funds our scholarship program. So it's really a great thing that we do here for our youth programs. All of our agents participate in it, our leaders participate in it. Just a great fellowship event here in Grand Isle, and we're just happy for everybody to be with us.
It's 27.
It's 27, Taylor.
Our categories, we have a stringer of 3 trout, first, second, and third place for the heaviest. Redfish under 27 inches, first 3 places. Redfish with the most spots, and then we have individual prizes for the largest flounder, sheephead, and drum. And we have a surprise category. The surprise category for this event was the trout closest to 2 pounds without going over.
1.97.
So the fish are coming in now. We're going to see a lot of action here, and then we'll cap this off with an award ceremony and honor the winners with their prizes. This has been an annual event since 2002, with the exception of 3 extraordinary years that we either had natural disasters or pandemics that stopped us, but our intent is just to be an annual event.
197 is a time. We tied.
You'll see us next year. We'll be raising money for Farm Bureau for our youth programs, Ag in the Classroom, and scholarships, getting all our volunteers and our leaders together, and having a great day on the water.
6.27.
Y'all come join us next year, and we'll have a good time fishing.
Man, those fish look great, and it looked like a great time. By the way, the event raised nearly $17,000 for the Louisiana Ag in the Classroom Foundation and the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation. To learn more about these great causes or to become a Louisiana Farm Bureau member, visit our website at TWILATV.org. Still to come on TWILA, a flyover of what's growing across the state. That always makes for pretty pictures. But first, how to beat the summer heat and how the summer heat beats us. Next. Temperatures back in the 90s make it perfect weather for a nice ice cream cone or some frozen yogurt or a large chocolate milkshake. That's good because June is National Dairy Month. And just in time for National Dairy Month, the LSU Ag Center Dairy Store is making ice cream again for the first time in about a year. That's because the COVID-19 pandemic forced it to shut down. As the sign says, the ice cream here comes from Smart Cows. That's because it's from the school's own herd of Holsteins over in Hammond. If you're in Baton Rouge and want to grab a scoop, or a cone, or maybe even a half gallon, you'll find the LSU Ag Center Dairy Store on the corner of South Stadium and Tower Drives on LSU's campus. The hours are a bit abbreviated right now, only open Monday through Friday from 11 to 4, but well worth it. I can tell you from experience, the cookies and cream ice cream is some of the best you'll ever have. To learn more about the LSU Ag Center Dairy Store or National Dairy Month, visit our website at TWILATV.org. While the high temperatures are a great excuse to get your ice cream fix, it's also a sign that crawfish season is coming to an end. This week, TWILA's Carl Wiggers checked in with our friends at Tony's Seafood to learn how the season is almost in the bag.
I'm Bill Pizzolotta, co-owner of a family-owned business in Baton Rouge on Plank Road. We've been here 61 years, and we just kind of give an update on the crawfish season. We started in late December. It really picked up around February, which is a little later this year than last year. We've been able to have good quality crawfish throughout the whole year. This coming Sunday is going to be Father's Day, and ever since the last 2 weeks, it's starting to wind down. The ponds are starting to drain, to plant rice. Now, we'll continue having crawfish probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks that's coming out of the Chefla Basin, and it's all dependent upon nature on what we get for next year. The weather gets hot and the water warms up, the crawfish are going to start getting harder and harder every day it goes by. The season's over with, but we will have some that will trickle in for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Last year during the pandemic, when they shut down all your restaurants, it really put a hurt on the farmers because it was just maybe retail, seafood markets, grocery stores, everything was to take home. Restaurants couldn't open. It's a sad thing because a lot of people we know in the restaurant business really got hurt because of not being able to open, and it hurt the farmers in a way because casinos couldn't do the crawfish ball that they give away crawfish every year or crawfish ball for parties. I'd like to give a big shout out to the consumers, to Baton Rouge, to Texas, all the people that buy the Louisiana crawfish and also Louisiana crawfish tails, because it's the big economic impact that helps our farmers stay in business, as well as the local seafood markets, grocery stores, restaurants, and that's what it's all about, is trying to take care of Louisiana first.
Though crawfish season may be wrapping up, it is not finished yet. Crawfish still have some good soft shells, and the size is great, as you saw there in the story. And if you're in the mood for crawfish, here are the prices for live and boiled crawfish across the state. These prices are brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, which reminds you to always make sure you're getting Louisiana crawfish. And if you're not sure, ask before you eat. For those working in agriculture, there is a deep appreciation for the land, faith, and family at the core of farmers and ranchers. In this week's TWILA Boost, we bring you a video by Sendero Provisions Company showing just how deep those values run in one American rancher.
There's so many beautiful things about the ranching life. And we produce food, and we take that seriously. Folks don't know about it, but it's out here. And I think that's why this industry has survived and will keep surviving, because we're doing things right. Stewardship is often thought of as water conservation, air quality, right? And we look at stewardship in this family, on this ranch, not just of the water and the air, but the livestock, right? How we care for them. There's a science to it in a lot of ranches, and we ourselves really take pride in how we handle our cattle. We look at every interaction we have with that cow or a bull or a calf or a steer, that it's a positive one from their perspective. And that changes things. And so I'm gonna do right by that old cow, that steer, to do right by that person in LA that decides to grill steaks, you know? And no one's gonna know that I did it. But I know, right? And I'm speaking for ranchers all across this country. A steward is someone who takes good care of those blessings that were God-given, right? The air, the water, the landscape, the animals, my wife, my kids, my banker, the person that owns the grocery store, the fellow that runs the feed store. Am I being a good steward of them, right? Am I honoring that relationship, that trust that we have? I spend most of the day without cell service, and for the most part, I'm just hearing the sounds around me of Mother Nature and the cattle. The distractions are not there. You can do a lot of thinking. You really can. I can rehearse how things went in the morning when I left the house and think about how do I need to be a little better when I come in that night, when I bust through the back door and greet my kids. I'm fortunate and blessed that my wife and I are on the same page. We see what life on a ranch can offer a family. We see the qualities, we see the value that it can bring to a family, and where you raise your kids and where you conduct your business and where you recreate. I mean, it's all right there on that ranch, and it provides so much of all those elements. And probably most especially and most importantly, what it does for our kids. You know, I've always told my kids, you don't have to leave here someday and get an education and come back here and ranch, but you can leave here with all the attributes this ranch provided for you. The hard work and the loyalty and the dedication and the prayer life and not quit until the job is done, and all those things that is just provided for us here whether we want it or not. as we say. Never miss a good chance to disappoint, you know. If those kids have to endure a little hardship that's this big, it's gonna get them ready for the bigger hardships, right? And if they have to bury their pet goat over here, or if they have to bury their best horse, then it's gonna be a little easier when we lay grandma to rest, or grandpa to rest, or a sibling. You know, God forbid those big tragedies. And some days are tough. I had one of my siblings come work with me. He said, I just can't get over how physically hard it is. He was here during a storm hit, and we were out in the middle of the night trying to save calves, and it was hard. I mean, dang, physically hard. You know, but it's all about making this ranch better. Some people say, oh, I hate to get off my horse and fence. That's something I'm not gonna do. You can find someone else to build fence. Well, you know what? I can build a fence in the last 40 years. My grandkids will be using that fence. Okay, there's something to be said about building a good fence. There's something to be said about building a set of corrals that'll be there for decades. There'll be something to be said about the hard work in calving and maybe assisting a cow calving and saving a calf's life. It's harder than heck, and you're covered in you know what when it's all over, but you saved a calf's life. My 5 kids, along with their dozen first cousins, are the 7th generation on this ranch. I also know, it was said to me this way, it's not about us, it's about the next generation. And by that I mean, I've got about 20 more years to get this ranch in a spot where I can pass it on. So my wife and I have that goal. This ranch was passed on to us in better condition that her father received it, and now we pass it on to our kids in better condition than we received it. That is the legacy that is important to my wife and I. At the end of the day, many times right here under the barn, it's dark and we're unsaddling underneath the light, and we're tired and cranky and it's been a long day, right? But it's been a good day. We worked hard on our ranch, raising beef. You know, it's a special thing, riding horses that we've raised and trained. And we may be tired, but everyone's still happy. There's joy in this family. There's joy on this ranch.
We had to cut that video down a little bit for time, so to see it in its entirety, visit the link on our website at twilatv.org. That does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll have this same show again. That's because we're taking a break to help with the final stretch of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation's 99th annual unconventional convention events next week. In the meantime, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when we put out new content. We just passed 11,000 subscribers. For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We leave you this week with some beautiful drone footage of some corn, hay, and sugarcane fields in Rapides Parish. Enjoy.